You know what time it is? It's time to get in the game with your host, Cynthia J.
Welcome, everyone, to your favorite sports show, Get in the Game. I am your host,
You know what time it is?
And thank you so much for joining us this evening. Listen, I am so happy because what better way to end our June Fatherhood series than to bring in my dad, Curtis Bunche. Now, he's not here live in studio, but we're doing one better by bringing in our Zoom. And so we are excited to have him here with us today on the show. And then my sister is here to my right. Hello, MyKeisha. She's here joining me in the studio. We're going to tag team and interview my dad together. And he's here live on Zoom.
Hi,
Welcome,
Dad.
everyone.
Yes. Hey.
Dad,
That's
I know
exciting.
you can't see her, Dad, but Keisha's here with me on the show this evening. Can you hear us okay?
He may have to join and click on his audio yet.
Can you
know,
hear us?
sometimes it
Can you
takes
hear
a
us, Dad?
minute.
Yes, you can hear us. Awesome, awesome. He can hear us. Awesome. So we're going to get started. First of all, Dad, just wanted to thank you so much for joining us this evening. This is something that I've dreamed about since I started my sports broadcasting career, just being able to interview you live. And so thank you for joining us this evening. Great, awesome. I can't hear him, but hopefully we'll get the audio set soon. So, Dad, I just want to start really quickly because obviously with the nature of everything going on in our society right now, I definitely just want to get your input on systemic racism because it's something that you faced. You know, you grew up here in Florida in the South, born in the 50s and grew up playing sports in the 60s. What is your view on this systemic racism that we're faced with in this country at the moment?
It is something obviously that has existed forever and always. What we're seeing now, we also saw it when I came up in the 60s, during the civil rights movement. We also saw this as well as while we were in the civil rights movement, we had an assassination of a president, John F. Kennedy. So all of this unrest that is going on, it was very similar to the same type of unrest we had back in the 60s. And a couple of years after that, unfortunately, then the assassination of Martin Luther King. Same thing, a lot of unrest, a lot of turmoil. This is a little different because when you add a pandemic that has hit the total global world as we know it, this is a whole different animal. So we as mankind, as a human race, is faced with something that we really haven't seen or heard of ever. So this is different. This is different.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Did you think that you would ever see something like this take place in your lifetime?
No, it isn't something that I even think about because every day I get up, I'm focused on the next task. I try not to let outside situation dictate what my first, second, and three goals are for that particular day and or week. I've always been goal oriented, and even now, the outside situations, what's going on, that won't deter me because, again, every day I wake up, I have a focus on what I want to do, what I need to do, period.
Yeah. Sounds familiar, right, Keisha? That's how we grew up. Definitely goal-oriented. And Dad, Keisha's going to jump in here from time to time and ask you some questions. But let's start there because that was a good segue. Where did you develop such a goal-oriented focus that led to the success you've had in, I mean, several different arenas. How did you develop that?
Good question. Where did it come from? How do you develop it? I don't know where it came from, but what I do know that I was asked to write what I wanted to be when I was 13 years old in high school. And to this very day, I remember what I wrote. And it was very pointed. And what I wrote was, I would like to be financially independent, period. If we lose this, my battery is running low. So I need to plug this up.
Okay, that's fine. We'll let you plug it up. It happens. This is live TV. Go ahead,
I was
Keisha.
just going to say, it's so interesting how he spoke about just being financially independent. And I know we spoke, last time when we had Mom on the show, and how, just the power of your words, right?
Yeah.
And so here he is saying this at 13, and then years later that comes into fruition.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a great, you talked about how, what led Dad to get to, where he is with his thought processes and goals and set and stuff. So for me, that, for him to say those things, that's me. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure for you too.
Yeah, it's definitely you. And I think and when Dad comes back, I'm going to ask him this, because as soon as he said that, I thought about you, because I think you really got that characteristics for, I mean, being the first child, you get everything first. But when I think about the difference,
better.
Well, maybe so. But when I think about the difference between you and I, because I can't speak for Malcolm or Kirsten, but between you and I, you are the person that has the specific numbers. Dad, you're back. So go ahead and go back to you saying when you were 13, you wrote down that you wanted to be financially independent, and obviously that manifested.
And so that was instilled in me early on, and so I guess that's where it started. And as you grow and become further into your maturation as far as an adult, you begin to copy the same traits of what you call people that have reached great success. And one of those things is being goal-oriented. And so somewhere at an early state, I picked that up. I don't know where, but I did.
And let's talk about your upbringing.
I'm sorry.
What? Say it again.
I was just going to say, what about through the athleticism?
Probably.
I wonder if
did you become,
different coaches
Keisha was saying that, did you become goal-oriented through your athleticism? Do you think that's where you picked it up?
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you a better example. Mm-hmm. If MyKeisha recall her junior year in high school, this was prior to the track season starting. And one thing I shared with her, I say, MyKeisha, what is the record for the 200 meters in girls in the conference? Then I asked her, what is the record for the 200 meters in the state? And the reason I'm sure she can share with you now, I wanted her to look at that and visualize that, because that was my peppering her to get her to understand that you aren't just out there running. You have to set your mind and sight to a particular goal. These are the best 2 times that have ever been ran in the state. This is the best time that has ever been ran in the conference. So that is your target. That is your goal, to surpass that.
Yeah, it reminds me, I think one of the traits that I appreciate from you as a dad and now as a friend, because our relationship has developed into a friend and a mentor, is you were so good at teaching us the idea of visualizing things. And it didn't work so well with me all the time, but where did you get that from, Dad?
That I don't know, but I can recall playing and competing in high school sports, football, basketball, and track, All-American, high school, and basketball. I would literally play a game constantly, mentally, in my head. I would literally play and I would literally see myself scoring 20, 25 points, 15 rebounds, 3 block shots. So my visualization started when I was in high school, and that was something that I did on my own. I didn't even know what I was doing.
Wow. Wow, that's big. Now, Dad, let's talk about how you grew up, because obviously how you grew up played a major role in how you developed the goal orientation that then led to you getting a full scholarship, playing football, and continuing on in the NFL. So talk about how you grew up in Hernando County down there, in that Dade City, Brooksville area.
Well, I grew up in a single parent household with our mother. It was 7 children. We were very poor, but yet we didn't know that. At the early age of 11, 12, and 13 years old, I worked picking fruit, which is oranges. I worked on the back of a trailer truck in the middle of the summer loading watermelons at the age of 13. So I always worked because it was important, because that was money that helped our mom continue to manage and support our household. We walked everywhere we went because we never owned a car.
Wow.
So a lot of those things you grow up, you take for granted, but you just don't know. So I was extremely motivated to do whatever I could to put myself in a higher financial situation so that I could now be a blessing for my mother. And that is really where it started for me. I was motivated to get her out of what I grew to know was a poverty situation.
Yeah, and it would take a whole nother show to talk about our grandmother and how she was very successful at raising 7 kids. But Dad, we see now the perpetuation of fatherlessness, and I got that title from Dr. Creflo Dollar. But in the perpetuation of fatherlessness, you didn't grow up with a male figure in the household. So how did that play a role into how you became a father?
Well, the way I answer that is this. I knew what I always wanted and needed, so I was going to make sure that my children was provided with everything they wanted and needed. So that made me the world's, in my mind, greatest provider. But at the same token, I probably was one of the worst husbands because I did not know how to be a husband.
Wow, that's big. Keisha, you have any questions? I see you over there shaking your head.
No, I'm listening. I'm observing and tuning in.
Taking
so
it
not
all
at the
in.
moment.
Yeah.
No.
So Dad, let's talk about growing up in Brooksville, Hernando County. And then you were a 3-sport athlete, or was it 4-sport? You played a whole bunch of sports. And you excelled at all of them, but you stuck with football. Why was football your thing?
Actually, it was 4 sports: baseball, football, basketball, and track.
There you go.
Basketball was my love. Even today, basketball is my love. I did not play high school football until my senior year in high school.
Wow. Okay, so senior year in high school, obviously you were really good because then you get a full scholarship to Albany State and Georgia. So how did that happen?
Well, actually, I was recruited by University of Florida, I was recruited by Florida State. I was recruited by Tennessee State, Wake Forest, long list of names. And the only school that would offer me a football plus basketball scholarship was Albany State. And at that time, Albany State had what we call, who now is the Jones brothers. Oliver Jones was the head coach. Major Jones, Charles Jones, they all played NBA basketball. So I thought my whole intent was to go there and pursue basketball. And it wasn't until my freshman year in college, it was after a long practice, and we had a scout from the Green Bay Packers. And at that time, they were combine scouts where they would scout for more than one team. And he sat me down, and I'll never forget the conversation. He said, Bunch, there's not too many 6'5" forward/centers that are playing professional basketball. At your height, you would have to be a guard. But yet, there's a great need for defensive ends and outside linebackers in football that are 6'5" with your athleticism. And he shared some names with me at that time. Ed Too Tall Jones, obviously, who was much taller. And he said, if I was you, I would really start focusing on football because I feel that you could really make some noise when it comes to football. That was his exact quote, unquote. And so from that day, at that particular moment, I was probably around about 215, 220 pounds,
Skinny.
freshman year. And from that day forward, I began to focus on training as far as lifting weights. My trainer at that time was a guy by the name, he was our biology teacher by the name of Judge Balsado. He was a national ranked weightlifter. And he began to teach me how to lift weights. So that summer, as I began to bulk up and get stronger, I competed in my first ever event. It was an open weightlifting event in the state of Georgia, in the city of Albany. I was the only college player to sign up. All of these other entries were full-grown men. And I'll never forget, I went in there and I took first place in my weight division. I bench pressed 420 pounds with the pause. I did lift 600 pounds, and I squatted 500 pounds for a combined total. So in the 242-pound class and higher, I took first place. I put on about 37 pounds in that first summer with that strength and power, and obviously I maintained my speed and quickness, and that's where it took off.
Wow.
So I was just going to say that's not to downgrade any of the other schools, but I think that's the awesome thing about going to a historically black college, the love, the care, and concern, and then learning about, you know, your culture and all these things that you get by going to a historically black college, which makes me think now that you see the rise now of these star athletes that are, you know, not committing to, you know, the Florida states and but now are committing to the historically black colleges. I just wonder, you know, what are your thoughts, Dad and Satira, about that?
Well, before I respond to that, real quickly, my high school football coach, Jim Gladden, was hired the year after I left high school and went to Albany State by Florida State. And they continued to recruit me all the way up until my junior year. Jim Gladden ended up retiring as an assistant football coach from Florida State, coached the defensive ends. And to this day, we still talk. He has a huge Longhorn cattle ranch outside of Tallahassee, Florida.
Wow.
But they continued to recruit me all the way up until my junior year of college, Florida State.
So, Dad, to Keisha's point, you had, like you said, you had been recruited by a list of schools. Would you, having known what you know today, having chosen Albany State, would you change your decision if you could go back and do it again?
Many years back, I would play with that thought, the what ifs. And there were times and moments in the past I would say, yes, I wish I would have went to Florida State. Because obviously the teaching and coaching in reference to football was far more superior, I think, there than what I received in a smaller university. But at the same token, then I vacillate back and say, but no, there have been a lot of misfortunes and experiences that to this day and friendships that I still carry. So,
yeah. And plus, that's where you met our mom, so we can't take that decision back. There's totally a different chance that we would have grew up with a different mom and dad, and I don't think I would have liked that. But anyways, Dad, so let's fast forward, because obviously Albany State did you good enough to help you get to the NFL. Talk about what your experience was like all those years ago, because you were drafted back when there was, 12 rounds, 11, 12 rounds. So what was that experience like for you and your family?
It was very different. Family was not involved whatsoever during the NFL draft back in 78 and 79. You all lived in a dormitory, and whatever floor in the dormitory you rang, it was one phone. And if that phone rings, somebody yells, Bunch, the phone is for you. And that's how you found out that you were drafted by a team.
Wow.
So that was literally it. And I was fortunate to get drafted in the 7th round because I did not play as a senior.
Right.
I had a back injury. But prior to that, I obviously had a great junior year where I was ranked nationally, where I had over 23 sacks in one season.
Wow.
And I see now kids taking 2, 3, 4 years to get that number. But again, playing in a small conference and so on and so forth, and not playing as a senior, I was very fortunate just to get drafted.
Yeah, you were the quarterback killer. They called you Kung Fu back in those days. So I'm curious that real quick, let's take kind of a side conversation, because your son, your only son, Malcolm, was drafted by the Eagles. You were drafted by the Eagles, and I don't think we've ever had this conversation as a family. Keisha, haven't had this conversation. What was it like for you that day? Malcolm not only got the call, but he made the decision, because he was a free agent, to choose the Philadelphia Eagles. What was going through your mind at that point?
Same team as Dad.
Same team.
Right.
Total jubilation.
Yes.
But more importantly, excitement and anticipation as far as seeing and knowing that this is the beginning of something that would be and could be great for him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So growing up in our household, Dad, Keisha and I were talking about this when we had Mom on the show back in May. You had, I think it was the 5 Ds. Do you remember what they were? I know it was discipline, drive, dedication, determination. What was that 5th one?
And desire.
Desire.
I was ready to say that.
You were going to say that? So that's how you raised us. I remember the conversations we used to have at the kitchen table. You adopted those philosophies and how you raised us as kids. Where did that come from? How did you create that?
I don't know. I didn't read it in a book. As I as I continued to grow and develop as a father, and being particularly goal oriented, those were some of the things that stood out. In order for a kid, a teenager, or anyone really to really do well and achieve greatness, these are some of the things they must have. Dedication. They must be dedicated to their craft and have the desire and determination to be committed to what needs to be done each and every day in order to reach that next goal and that next level. And always have the desire and the determination to never give up and never quit. So it was common thinking to me, but at the same time, I did not realize, I guess, the importance and the implications of it, because it was just like, it was like breathing to me.
Yeah. Keisha, you got a question?
You go ahead. Go ahead. I think you can wait.
So, Dad, I'm curious, because you have 4 kids, you have 3 girls, 1 boy. Keisha's the oldest, then me,
That's
then
where I
Malcolm,
was going.
then Kirsten. You were going?
That's
so
where
you
I was,
go ahead and ask
exactly
the question.
where I was going.
Let's see if we're having a
Let's see
moment
it.
of mental telepathy. Go ahead and ask the question.
So my question would be, Dad, you know, you talked about teaching us all the 4 or 5 Ds. What was the difference in how you raised, you know, the girls versus Malcolm, versus you raised us when you were younger versus now, you know, Kirsten as an older, you know, father? What were those differences? Was that where you're going?
It wasn't any different. Here's what made it different. That particular child made it different because the whole point was to expose them to as much as I can, swimming, golfing, soccer, basketball, track, football. And as they grow as young teenagers, they will gravitate to what they choose. And in doing so, making sure that they apply the 5 Ds, making sure that they apply the focus as far as being goal oriented, not just being mediocre. I mean, you don't have to be good to be mediocre. If you want to be great, then set a goal to achieve great things. And in order to do that, you have to research and understand, okay, this is my chosen path. Now, who are the people that are achieving great things in that particular profession? So you study them, you copy them, and then you, like a sponge, apply as it relates to you and your personality.
Now, Dad, one thing you did, I can remember, I mean, we saw Keisha do it first, but somehow you and Mom were able to discover each child's bent, and that's an old school term, but each child's perfected craft.
Their gifting.
Their gifting. Thank you, sis. When did you notice each of our giftings, and at what point did you decide? Because I mean, I can remember, you got to change gears because all of us were playing
here's the way. Let me answer that. It's real easy because we didn't choose it. You chose it. You chose your career. I only exposed you to all of these things, and you gravitated to what you desire the most. Period.
That's good. And so, but one thing you did do is you helped us hone in on, because I can only speak for me. Keisha was exceptional at basketball. I mean, me, Malcolm, Kirsten, we kind of could have gone either way with our sports. So how did you help us to, even at a young age, find it and then hone in on it? Because I remember with track, it was like I didn't really want to run track, but you helped me to see that that's what I was going to be really good in. And that's when you began to say, okay, kind of like you did with Keisha, you have to visualize yourself running these times. And again, I sucked at it. I wasn't that good because I would always visualize myself tripping or.
But visualizing the time and then also making goals,
Right.
I think was also a good thing as well.
Here's what I would say to that. If you and your audience only get one thing, here's the thing that is more important than all of this. Mental preparation. Mm-hmm. You're setting that mindset. Mm-hmm. And that can only come through you, the person, the athlete. Cannot come from me, the parent. And so it all depends on how much desire you, that person, have in order to obtain and achieve what you want. So in order to be great, you first must believe it and do it and see it mentally. Mm. Then it begins to manifest itself physically.
That's good.
And therein lies what I call the secret, what separates good from great. It's all mental.
Yeah. And we've heard you say that our whole lives. So that's a good thing. Dad, I'm wondering, because, you know, Keisha and I could go all day, and we will towards the end of the show once we have to say our partings to you off of Zoom. But what are some of your greatest achievements you feel that you've been able to accomplish as our dad?
First of all, seeing you guys grow up and become active and productive citizens. And eventually the same thing would take place with Kirsten, who is just 15. So that is my greatest accomplishment, period. Because I realized after my first daughter was born that it was no longer about me. It was now much greater and bigger than me.
I do have a question. What advice would you give for young men out there who have not grown up with a father as far as parenting and being a father? What's some advice that you would give them for fatherhood?
You have to be goal oriented. And based on what you set your mind to be and achieve, you have to go at it with all your heart and all your might. You have to study it. You have to research. You have to read it. It has to be part of your everyday breathing. And while you're doing that and accomplishing that, you marry that with the full understanding of economics and how that applies to everything in today's life. You have to understand capitalism and how that works. Then you begin your quest to conquer your desires.
So I do want to bring up something because we were raised in the church. We were raised, Dad was a deacon, Mom directed the choir, we all sang, we all did our little Easter skit. And I was thinking about this other day in preparing for this interview. It wasn't until I was older, and Keisha, you can comment on this, but Dad, I want to point the question to you, that I realized that our whole lives we heard you say, with all thy getting, get understanding. Mm-hmm. With all thy getting, get understanding. And when I was younger, I didn't even know that was biblical. And so you were teaching us biblical principles, but you made them so realistic that we didn't even know that it came out of the Bible, and that came from somewhere. Can you just talk about the importance of, because yes, being goal-oriented, but we are a faith-based family, and we're believers. So talk about how that played a role in your fathering of us back then, and even your guiding and rearing us now.
And with your grandchildren as well.
Yep.
How does that play a role?
With all of thy getting, get understanding. As we grow as humans in our faith, through reading, research, and just living life, we develop and we acquire experiences. And with that, we gain wisdom through longevity. But too often, a lot of us go to our grave without fully understanding and acquiring full understanding. And that is only measured by you as an individual and your faith, and whether or not your full understanding has lifted you to the highs as far as what your heart and mind, goals and desires were, period. And to me, it's really simple. And that's where I've always kept it. It's simple. Each and every single day you get up, you have to have a single focus as far as achieving whatever that goal is to get you to that desired result, because you have short-term goals, you have intermediate goals, and then you have long-term goals.
Dad, I'm wondering, as you're talking, I'm thinking about how both of your parents kind of, I don't want to say they died young, but you're definitely going to outlive them because of the way you've chosen to take care of yourself, health and nutrition-wise. Have you ever had moments where you think back on your parents and you have one of those moments where it's like, I wish mom or dad could see me now? Or if they were here, what about the way you've grown as an individual, as a father, as a grandfather, would you want them to be most proud of?
I never think about, I wish my mother could see me now, because my faith and understanding the truth makes me realize that she does see me, because she also is a part of me. So that never enters my mind. And what was the second part of the other question?
You answered it. That was pretty much it. What are you looking forward to most? Because, I mean, Kirsten's the youngest. She's going to go off and become a professional golfer. We know that. What are you looking forward to most about this second phase of life? Because even though you don't look it, you are in your 60s. And so now you have grandchildren. What are you looking forward to most about your second phase?
If I can use a golf term, I can say now I'm on the back nine of life.
Okay,
so
people.
The motivation each day now is to continue to enjoy what Kirsten is doing in the golf arena, because during the spring and summer, we're traveling every week to different venues all over the country, really, watching and seeing her compete. And now from a distance, seeing our grandchildren grow and develop, and, watch the challenges of their parents trying to navigate what I have already done.
Yeah, no kidding. We're going to wrap it up soon. Keish, do you have any questions for Dad while we start wrapping it up?
Nope.
What would you say, Dad, is your greatest legacy? So, multiple generations from now, we know you'll be here to see your great-grandchildren, because, again, you take very, very good care of yourself. But what would you want your legacy to be? What would you want my kids to tell their kids about Papa Bunch?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far in the future, but someone within the four of you will be able to write that legacy. I can't do it.
So it definitely will have to be the 5 Ds. Right?
Right.
We're going to teach them the 5
We'll put
Ds.
them back
We're
there.
also going to make sure that they know it's all mental.
Yeah, goal oriented and with
be
all that
goal oriented.
with all that getting.
Get understanding.
Get understanding.
Period.
So one more thing, Dad. You have 4 kids. When you look at each of us, what about each of us do you see yourself in? When you look at Keisha, what do you see? When you look at me, when you look at Malcolm, when you look at Kirsten, what?
When I see MyKeisha, part of me, I see a deep thinker. Second born, when I see you, I see personality and the get it done type of intuition. When I look at Malcolm, I see the calm side of me. And when I see Kirsten, I'm still trying to figure it out.
She's still
Because
evolving.
there's a lot of similarities between her and MyKeisha. Kirsten is an extremely deep thinker.
Mm-hmm.
What she does in her spare time and her hobbies, she reads every single day. She's reading something. Matter of fact, obviously, she published her first book, so on and so forth, written at the age of 13. So that's another thing, but that's it.
What do you feel your greatest accomplishment as our dad has been? Because we're going to share what we think it is, but we want to know what you think your greatest accomplishment as our father has been.
What's the question?
I said, what do you think? Because we're going to share towards the end of the show, but what do you think your greatest accomplishment is? Or even if you have any regrets, because everybody's not perfect, and I've seen you evolve. We've seen you evolve and grow as our dad, which has been absolutely amazing as an adult to see that. But what would you say are some of your greatest accomplishments, or even your failures? If you could say, I wish I could do this over again, what would those things be?
I haven't accomplished it yet. I'm still striving.
That's good.
Any regrets? Any do-overs?
No, because that's all part of the growth.
That's true. Awesome. Well, before we get ready to close out, I just want to bring in, obviously, we're all Eagles fans in my family. So just want to get your opinion. Do you think we're going to see an NFL season this year?
I do not.
Well, that was clear. Period. Why not?
With what we're faced with, it's again like something we've never been faced with since the beginning of time. So every day this thing is changing, and so nobody really knows. So when you look at an NFL team, there's a lot of moving parts. Golf does not have that problem because they don't have that many moving parts as in a football team. Coaches, players, trainers, you name it, and it goes on and on and on. It's just too many moving parts. So it is going to be a challenge.
Okay, sounds good. So that we're going to get ready to say our farewells to you. I thank you again for being on the show. Do you have any final words to our viewing audience? Anything you want them to know? Anything you didn't get to say? Anything I didn't ask that you want to share?
Nothing. It's been fun. Enjoyed it. Love you guys. Continue doing what you're doing.
Love you too.
Okay, bye guys.
And don't, make sure you go and finish watching, because Keisha and I are going to continue on the conversation here. So thank you for joining us.
Very well.
Love you, Dad.
Love you, Dad.
Okay.
So now we get a chance to kind of brag on our dad. It's just you and I, the two oldest. So, I mean, there was so much, sis, that couldn't be said. There's a lot. even in just the way we grew up, you know, hearing Dad talk about how he grew up in poverty, we didn't experience that. And I think he did an amazing job of making sure that we didn't want for anything. We had to work for everything, but we didn't want for anything. Our parents made sure that we had the best life, from vacations to quality time. As busy as Dad was building a business, I wish I had the chance to tell him, but we'll just talk about it. You know, being taken under the wing of Mel Farr after getting out of the NFL and starting one of the first Black-owned car dealerships in the Northeast, and becoming the most well-known car dealer in the Northeast. We've seen him accomplish so much, and he passed down so many good nuggets. What are some of the things that even today, while you're with the kids or, you know, doing things with King, teaching him how to play golf like Dad taught us how to play golf, what are some of those things that kind of pop up in your mind?
So it's so funny, because most of the lessons that Dad has taught us, you know, he shared, you know, being, you know, the importance of just, it's all mental, the importance of those 5 Ds. Just, but what I love most about Dad is that he always took time. He made time to sit down and have those deep conversations. And those are the things that, you know, I try to do with my kids, you know, making those memorable moments, you know, whether it's just, you know, oh, let's just count some money real quick, or let's talk about the importance of spending, saving, and giving.
Budgeting,
you know, just stuff. Those things. So I think, you know, he shared a lot about the 5 Ds and, you know, mental importance, but, you know, just watching is just as big as of a lesson as the talking part. And for me, so what I saw was a hardworking man. I saw a person who, he didn't say it all the time, but those multiple streams of income. He didn't say it all the time, but just being financially astute. So he didn't say it, but you saw it. And so those are the things that I, you know, try to, you know, teach my kids, even though they're young. So.
One thing too, I definitely want to touch on is, obviously there's 4 of us, so 3 girls and 1 boy. The importance of girls growing up with their dads, and dads being the first example of a man, not in just how to treat a woman, but
how to take care
and how to take care of a house. So what are some things that you, because you're married, I'm not married yet, not yet, but what are some of the things that you saw in Terry that reminded you of Dad?
Oh God, just enjoying life, including your kids, taking care of your family. The biggest thing that they have in common is their work ethic. And absolutely. So I knew that my husband, he had to have a strong work ethic, because I saw that in my dad. I saw how, like, I knew, you know, hey, my dad provided a great life for us. I for sure wasn't going to go backwards with anybody.
Absolutely.
So whoever I was going to marry had to be on that same level, if not higher. So I think, man, Daddy had, he high expectations. I mean, he had an awesome father. It's,
and we still
thank God, there are some men out there that are doing it as well. You know?
Absolutely. But I think too, the thing that encouraged me was just Dad's story of triumph. You know, we hear it a lot, but we also see the bad. You know, the not so good ending stories, and then we also see the drop-offs. And when I look at our dad, I see the continued escalation of greatness, because even when he retired early, you know, from the car business and had set up, you know, matter of fact, I think Dad is probably the first person in our family that I can think of that even gave us the concept of creating generational wealth and riches, in showing us how to do that. Like, we saw it being done. We didn't know what it was then or at least I didn't. You probably did. He might have had that conversation with you. But we see what it was now in that continued escalation of success. Let's just go back and forth and kind of share some of our fondest memories. I think one of my greatest memories of Dad is my love for everything sport came from Dad. And it's so cliche, you hear people say it, but I think the difference that I could say in our household from other people is we didn't just watch the game, he taught us every game, everything we wanted to learn, whether it was basketball, football, baseball, golf. He made sure we were exposed to it and then got the knowledge behind it. So I feel like when people would be shocked at how much I knew about football, and then they're like, oh, your dad played football. No, I never got to see him play. He taught me the game, and he didn't, most people, I think, most dads, it's like, no, you don't belong in here when we're watching football. Dad didn't do that. Like, he literally would sit me down and explain the game, and those are things that I appreciate about him, even still to this day, because, even today we were having a conversation about Cam Newton and the Patriots. We can still go.
So, it's funny, Dad talked about how, oh, I parented you all the same, but he didn't, because the way that he talked about football with you was not something he did with me, because just as he shared, my hunger, my thirst, my connection is mentally.
Yeah.
We need to talk. We
Right.
need to review a book. We need to study. So
Right.
for me, my fondest memories are the conversations.
Yeah.
So even though, he says everything was the same, in reality, in totality, the difference again was, talking about football with you, but spending time with me about, talking about finances, talking about, generational wealth, talking about, at the age of junior year in high school, I had my first mutual fund, was starting stocks and stuff. That stuff interests me because he knew what type of child I was.
Yeah. So. I feel like he, as well as Mom, they spoiled us in the greatest way. They spoiled us mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, spiritually. What am I missing?
Blessed.
Everything. They spoiled us. We were spoiled in such the most well-rounded way.
We were.
One thing that you said as far as not raising us the same, one thing that I appreciated about Dad is he showed up for all of us in the same way. So I don't think there was ever, and obviously there were times he couldn't make it because he was running a business to make sure that when you wanted to drive a new car, you could. When I wanted to drive a new car, I could. Or when we wanted to go out of town, we have money in our pocket. But it was one of those things where I don't have memories of Dad not being there. Track meets, he was the first one. He was like, people thought Dad was giving me drugs. Like, she's fat. It's something her dad's putting in her mouth. And Dad had just done the research that if he gave me a squeeze of honey before the start of a race, that it was going to get into my bloodstream and I would take off like a jackrabbit. And it worked. Yeah. What about today? Because we're in our 30s, and I know for me, I say it all the time, that I am so grateful for the relationship I have with Dad now, maybe even more so then, because I didn't understand it then.
Mm-hmm. So is there a question? I'm not sure. Like, is there a difference now versus then?
Not is there a difference, because obviously there is, but what you appreciate him most today, because now you're married, you're a mom, you have a business, what do you appreciate most?
Honestly, I appreciate the fact that he still includes us. It sounds so weird, but the fact that, he has, a younger child, and then it's myself and my kids. He still includes us. He still wants to know, what are my kids doing? How can I help? How can I show me videos of King with his golf swing? I want to be involved. Like that, as a mom, wife, his daughter, that excites me. That's like, wow, because not everyone has that.
Yeah.
You get older, you move out, and it's like, okay, bye. I'm going to go live my best life.
Yeah.
I'm going to retire and enjoy life. You're good, right?
Right.
But
yeah.
no, he still includes me.
And it's interesting you say that because he includes us and he calls us. And he texts us and he emails us.
And make sure we read the email and the messages
right.
and the reports.
And the phone calls, right. And we got to call him back. I think one thing I appreciate about Dad, he's still teaching.
Yes.
He is such a teacher. And I think, like you said, sometimes at this point in life, you kind of see parents take their hand off, but both of our parents are still so involved and are evolving. And I think the greatest thing that makes me proud to call him dad and friend is that Dad corrects his wrongs even at this age. You know, you see a lot of older people who are set in their ways. I remember the first time I confronted Dad on something, felt comfortable confronting Dad, and he apologized. And that meant the world to me, only because when you're in your 30s and your parents are in their 50s and 60s, they don't owe you anything. But for him to still show that I'm not always right, and when I'm wrong, I can apologize even to my adult child, it means so much to me that he's still evolving.
Yeah.
He's still becoming better.
When he includes us in it.
He includes us in it. When we have discussions about the Word of God, he's still so hungry that he'll say, teach me. He'll say, see, teach me. Oh, I didn't know that. Where is that in the Word? I think his vulnerability, thank you, Holy Spirit, his vulnerability, the fact that Dad at 65, I don't know, Dad at 50, we'll just say 50, he's still vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's still open to be taught by us.
The cliche that says you can't teach an old dog new tricks, it is so obsolete when it comes to our parents, and that is a blessing, which is why I believe longevity is in their future.
Yeah.
Because they're always trying to learn, they're always trying to grow, they're okay with trying new things.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is why, again, longevity is in their future.
Yeah, and like you said, they include us. Man, this is in a great show. Thanks for joining me. It's always good. Love you. We're still practicing social distancing. It's okay. But listen, guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you to our dad, our papa, the big Kung Fu Curtis Bunch, who still has records there at Albany State. Yep. Look it up. We appreciate you guys joining us this evening. To all the fathers, we hope that you have enjoyed your month of Father's Day. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. Shout out to my brother Malcolm, my sister Kirsten, Miss Dawn, Mom, Kiki, Terry, all the kids, Malachi, Tajay, King, Pa, Walter Jr. Love you guys. Thank you to my family. Thank you for your support of this show. It has been amazing. Listen, you only get these opportunities once in a lifetime, and I can remember when I went into the sports broadcasting business almost 13 years ago, one of my first thoughts was, it would be so cool to interview my dad. And by God's grace, I've been able to do this evening. Thank you to my producers, Mr. Stefan Petty and Mr. Allen, who are making everything work behind the scenes. Listen, it's not easy doing this stuff, and if you guys think you should do it better, prove it to us, right? It's not easy to be in the production and programming business. Thank you to my designer who designed these lovely earrings for me this evening, Diana Rosito at Atia Designs. Go look her up on Instagram and Facebook. Don't forget to follow us, yes, us, Get in the Game with Satara J on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe our channel. And listen, you can catch us anytime. If you missed this episode, it'll be up for replay on Facebook at Satara Bunch, and you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bunch of Legs. That's BuncheAlegzz. Thanks again to my sister for joining us. Thanks again to my dad for being available to us all the way from Delaware. And thank you guys for joining us this evening. You've been watching Get in the Game with Satara J. See you next time. Have a great evening.